Okay, so it's May 26th, little just past 1 o'clock, and I'm going to do this sort of drive-by here, and we're going to stop at the beans. As I notice, let me see if I can find them for you, but it's not just so many little bits and pieces of the vine wrapping around. I'm having trouble locating one here. We go over here. Well, okay, on the short one over here, you can see right here, there's a flower and there's a green bean of some sort. So I don't know if that's going to be the yard long or just a standard pole bean. Considering this is one of the shorter plants, that was a little bit of a surprise. Looking up at this one, it's made it up this high now. Looking along the plant, I know I saw some more. Well, I'm having trouble locating, don't want to waste too much of your time. But let's see. Well, you can see some more yellow flowers back in there. Some green sort of bits sticking out here. So, trust me, I saw 2 or 3 of them on the plants as a whole. So that's good. I don't talk too much about the herbs. Let me go back to that for a second. We've got the cinnamon basil is doing pretty nicely, and there's a few more plants now starting to come up there. We've got the large leaf basil, and then beyond that, sorry, I got my tripod's a little too long now. Beyond that, I've got the chamomile, which is doing nicely. You can see a bunch of chamomile flowers. When we come around this way, you can kind of see them differently. So, let's see, there's the chamomile flowers. Moving on, we've got bean plant that still looks like a dwarf. We've got more squash and such. 3 squash plants. Actually, this one I planted yesterday. That's the butternut, and we'll see how that comes out. I haven't labeled it yet. I really should. The corn seems to be doing okay. The tomato plant's nice and tall. Still looking fairly healthy. We've had some good sun the last few days, and let's give you a picture of the tomato itself. The singular tomato. So there it is. It doesn't seem like it's getting any bigger, so I don't know if that's just some tomato that just happened to pop up, or maybe I really got to take a tape measure to it and try and figure that out. Anyway, let's head downstairs and see what we find down there. Now, one quick mention, I don't know if I mentioned this in a previous one, but looks an awful lot like a dandelion. This is a volunteer. I did not plant it. So I decided to separate it from the rest of the garden, but being sort of an experimental garden, I decided to go ahead and throw it in one of the smallest pots and just see what happens. I'm not really giving it much for water. I just want to see how it does in the wild, and hope if it does start to actually sprout a flower, I'll probably kill it before it can spread. But I think I've seen a couple other dandelions around here too. So anyway, we'll see what happens with that. And so speaking of volunteers, here's another one. I grabbed this one from behind this bush here. Decided to put it in the pot, but I think in the process of doing it, I actually damaged right at the base of the stem there, so this may not live. I've given it a lot of support, making sure to give it a lot of water. I don't know if a lot of water is too much, because I don't even know what kind of plant it is, but we'll see what happens. And we got I think this is the begonia here. This one's doing okay. This was one of the ones I found in the bushes and rescued and put back over on this area here. And now it's just a pop of color here. The petunias are doing nicely for their second year. This pot here had a bunch of just green for a while because all of the good flowers had died out, so I cut off the bad branches and it's kind of come back. Most of this stuff here I think might actually be somewhat of a weed that shows up around here. I'm going to let it go until if I see little white flowers, I'll probably just yank it out. And then there's one in the back that's getting a little taller, so we'll see what happens with that. Moving on, we've got the big squash plants. If I can't get the camera up and over here. We've got the scallop squash there. We got the Dixie, which is the crookneck. We got the spaghetti. And finally we got the big square one. We'll see what happens with that. And over here in the overflow, we've got, unfortunately, one spaghetti squash which looks like it's dying. I may come down with another stake and try and stake it so it'll get a little more sun. I may also shift everything over because it looks like maybe the sun is moving on me now, so being up against the wall doesn't give them a whole lot of sun. That may be what killed it, is just a lack of sun. Don't know. But the good news, I suppose, is for the donor plants that I was going to give away, I still have a spaghetti squash here. So, well, that was the backup plant, since I think I already... Actually, no, now that I mention it, now that I think of it, I don't actually have a spaghetti squash over there. I've got... I just went through this a moment ago. But anyway, it looks like if this one's gone, then this is going to be the backup for the backup, and so this will come out of the donor selection and become one of my primary or backup. So we'll see what about that. Here's all the other small ones. They're still growing. They're not real big. I'm not sure why they don't get big. The one that is doing well is the scallop. So if I have another problem, I've got a backup on the scallop. This was actually supposed to be my backup scallop, but it's actually not looking as good as this one. So I may do a little switcheroo. Not that I want to give people bad plants or whatever, but I'd prefer to have a primary and a backup just in case something goes wrong with some of these. Anyway, so that's pretty much what we've got down here, except actually I don't mention it very much. I got a coyote squash, which I actually planted in the ground. This was the one that was in my kitchen. I had actually bought a bunch of coyote squash, and then I just never got around to eating one of them. And one day I looked and it had a tail. It just started growing on its own, unassisted. It wasn't planted in the ground. I wasn't giving it water or anything. It was just sitting on the table, and it started to grow a tail. So I decided, well, maybe I should plant it in the ground, and I did, and now I got leaves. First it was just a scrawny little stalk. Now I've got leaves, so apparently it's putting out roots or something. So I'm now got a stake, and I'm trying to let it grow up the stake, and we'll see where it goes from there. This is the only one actually in the ground. So that's it for today. Okay, it's Saturday, May 28th. I'm being a little quiet because it's only 7:30 in the morning, and this morning I want to try and track the sun a little bit, so here we go. Okay, that's roughly every 15 minutes for the last 2 hours. It's now 9:30, and I gotta go run and help out a friend.